Arizona votes.
I'm Martha Maurer from the KTAR Live Desk. Arizona has voted, and we now have the results of the election in terms of the propositions that were on your ballot. 5 ballot initiatives that, if passed or failed, will have affected all of us here in the state of Arizona. I want to take a few moments to go through these 5 props, 125, 126, 127, as well as propositions 305 and 306, which were on your ballot, and you, Arizona, overwhelmingly decided whether to pass or to fail each one of them. So let's go through the big one. Proposition 127. This was one that caused a lot of controversy and that a lot of money came in. You saw the ads, you looked through them through your social media feeds, you heard them on the radio and watched them on TV. This was Proposition 127 that would have required utilities to get their energy, 50% of their energy, from renewable sources like wind and solar by the year 2030. It was a hefty goal that opponents like APS, for example, would say would cause you and I, consumers, to spend more money on electricity. Groups like Environment Arizona put out a statement after Proposition 127 failed, saying, this would have been a really nice goal that would have boosted renewable energy in the state to get plenty of sun, but still get more of its power from fossil fuels. So what were the results? About 70% of all of us voted no for this proposition and ended up rejecting it. About 30% of us voted yes to fail Proposition 127 in this midterm election. Education was big this midterm election, and Proposition 305 dealt with it, the Empowerment Scholarship Accounts. Arizonans rejected the proposition with an overwhelmingly about 65% of the vote. The rest decided to support this prop, which would have expanded the amount of kids in the K-12 system to be able to use public funds in private schooling. Now, we did receive a statement from Save Our Schools, a group who strongly opposed it, who celebrated the victory, saying more money is staying in the public school system instead of going to more affluent families for private school use. Groups, however, like the American Federation for Children, did put out a statement saying that even though Prop 305 did fail, it still allows for protections for students in the system to be able to use some of the funding as needed in private schools. That's Proposition 305, again, failing to pass this midterm election. Arizonans approved 3 propositions this midterm election. They were Propositions 125, 126, and 306. Prop 125 dealt with retirement plans, and it allowed them to be adjusted. It was actually a very close race. About 52% of Arizonans voted to approve this proposition. The remaining 48 wanted to reject it. But in the end, it passed, and what it does is it allows for adjustment of 2 retirement plans for corrections officers as well as elected officials. So once again, Proposition 125, one of 3 props this midterm election that were approved by you Arizonans, and it allows for the adjustment of those 2 retirement plans, the corrections officers retirement plan as well as elected officials retirement plans. That's Proposition 125. Proposition 126 was overwhelmingly approved by Arizonans with a margin of about 65% of Arizonans voting yes, about almost 35% voting against it. What it does is it bans professional services taxes. It bans the Arizona legislature to be able to impose new taxes on services like real estate, people like accounting and groomers and health services. So doctor's visits, for example, it bans another services tax on it. There was some controversy over whether this was even needed because groups opposing it had said that there was already a safeguard in the legislature to ban these kinds of services. But once again, Proposition 126 was overwhelmingly passed by voters with a 65% margin voting to approve this ban on professional services taxes. Proposition 306 passed by Arizona voters this midterm election with 56% of the vote, 44 voting against it. But what it does now that it has passed, it bans Arizona candidates from using clean elections funding from being transferred into campaign funds to fund a political party. So again, Arizonans decided this is not what they wanted. 56% of Arizonans voted to approve Proposition 306, which again means that it bans Arizona candidates to used clean elections funding from being transferred into campaign funds for political campaign use. That's Proposition 306. Well, if you're looking for more in-depth coverage of how you and I voted this midterm election, head to KTAR.com. We have more on the propositions that passed, propositions that failed, and all of the election results on this Arizona Votes Election Day 2018. I'm Martha Maurer from the KTAR Live Desk.
I'm Bob McClay. Here's our top story.